Today we're going to be learning about how to use formulas and with respect to given values for variables within the formulas. This goes along with our unit on evaluating expressions. The way it's similar is that with evaluating algebraic expressions, we substitute for the variables and then we simplify or evaluate the problem. Here, we're given a formula that is in the form of an equation. They give us the values for the variables and then we work it out to find the value of the missing variable. That's all. Okay? So when you're doing these, you have to read carefully. Obviously, we always have to do that in math. And then you need to substitute for every variable, just like we did with our expressions. And then we work it out. Okay? Some teachers use the phrase of plug and chug. I don't know who came up with that, but it's kind of catchy. You plug in for the variable and then you chug through the problem. All right, let's look at the first one. This formula says D equals RT, and this is a normal formula for distance, but you don't have to know that. It's telling us that distance equals rate times time, but if you don't know what the letters mean, it does not matter because they've given you values. You just plug them in and work it out. Later on, you'll learn why you need to use these formulas for certain situations, but that's not the purpose of this activity. All right, so they gave us the value for R and T, so we're going to replace the R and the T. Remember that when two variables are side by side, that's going to tell us to multiply. So we don't know D. We do know that R is 12 and T is 45. So you just come out to the side and you do 12 times 45. And so that just tells us that D is going to equal 540 of whatever it is we're talking about. We don't know, and we don't have to know. We're just practicing plugging in for variables and working out the answer. Okay? For the second one, we have R equals W plus M. Well, they tell us W and they tell us M. Substitute for your W, $35.15 plus, follow your formula, and you're going to solve it algebraically, just straight down. Don't come out to the side and start doing little pieces. Straight down with your equal sign so that you know you have done everything you need to. When you come out to the side, that's where you start messing up. And we're going to add 12 to that. R will equal these two. Now don't forget, when you have a whole number and a decimal, you have to line up the decimals to add them and subtract them. But in this case, we're adding whole numbers. Remember, the decimal goes behind it. And that's 15.74. So this is 47.15. Now, since this is money, we do know a label, so you should put it. The answer is $47.15. I didn't box my answer here. We really need to box our final answers or highlight them. Okay. Says that this formula, C equals 5/9 times the quantity of F minus 32, that is used to convert Fahrenheit temperatures to Celsius temperatures. We're going to change 95 degrees Fahrenheit to a Celsius temperature. So the first thing you need to do is write your formula. C equals 5/9 times the quantity of F minus 32. Some people like to try to skip that step. I do not recommend it because you might forget to write part of the formula down. And it takes less than a second to copy it. So please, please, please do that. Okay, we're trying to make it a Celsius temperature, so you leave your C, 5/9. Now we're going to get rid of that F because they told us that Fahrenheit temperature. The Fahrenheit temperature is 95 degrees, and it says to do that minus 32. Forget about this for now. Just as if that were an expression, you still follow your order of operations. We would do this first. We would do 95 minus 32, and we would get 63. So that's what's in your parentheses. And we're going to need to keep those parentheses or use some type of multiplication symbol, because when you have a number beside parentheses and nothing between, that tells you to multiply. All right. Don't forget, when you multiply fractions, you have to have a fraction times a fraction. So now I'm going to make that bigger. And we've got 1 here and 7 here. And 7 times 5 is 35 over 1. But 35 over 1 equals 35. And since we know what we're talking about is 35 degrees, and you now can bring this down every time. So C is 35 degrees. And if you wanted to put 35 degrees Celsius, that's perfectly fine too. If you don't, you have your C equals on the outside, and that's letting everybody know. Okay? I want you to pause the video, try number 4, and it says to use that formula above. Come back when you're done and check your work. Back. Notice that I copied my formula. I substituted for the variable. I followed my order of operations. One thing I do want to warn you about, do not stop right here. If you leave your answer as 40 over 1, that doesn't make sense, guys. It's not simplified. You're not going to tell somebody, oh, it's 40 over 1 degrees Celsius. That makes no sense. Simplify and make it a whole number, okay? All right, if you didn't get it right, you can pause it and go fix your mistake. The next one tells us to use this formula, V equals S cubed, to find the volume of a cube. Well, that lets me know volume is V. And then it says to find the volume of a cube with a side length of 4/9 centimeters. So that's what your S stands for. Write your formula first. So this is volume. The S is your side length. And they told us that. So we're looking for volume. Side length is 4/9, and we have to cube that. Okay? Put the fraction in parentheses so that you don't just cube the numerator. Okay? Remember, exponents tell us to multiply the base times itself this many times. So that tells me, the cube tells me to write 4/9 3 times. Not times 3. So not okay. It's 4/9 times 4/9 times 4/9. When you're multiplying the same fraction times itself, you will not be able to cancel and simplify before you do your multiplication unless the original fraction itself is not in simplest form. So since 4/9 is in simplest form, you could still check. We can't cancel anywhere. Okay? So 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 4 is, that's right, 64. 9 times 9 is 81, and 81 times 9 is 729. And since this is volume, you should remember from elementary school that your label will be units cubed. Volume is cubed, area is squared, perimeter is plane. You to try number 6. You're going to use the same formula as we did for number 5, and come back when you're done to check how you did. Right, so again, we are finding the volume of a cube with a side length of 3/5, so that we use the same formula. Remember to put your fraction in, the whole thing in parentheses, so that we're cubing the entire fraction. And hopefully you got 27 over 125 cubic centimeters. All right, let's look at number 7. The Nancys use the equation of C equals $20 plus 8H to determine the total they will pay to have their grass cut. If C represents the cost and H represents the number of hours, determine the cost for 2 hours. So the first thing you need to do is write your formula and then go back and think about what you know. C equals $20 plus 8H. Okay, C is the cost, the total cost. That's why you're adding these two together. And H is hours. Okay. We know that there are 2 hours, so we're going to replace our H with the 2. It's 20 plus 8 times 2. So follow your order of operations over here. Since we're looking for C, we can't find it until we do all the math. We would multiply before we add, and we would get 16 plus 20 equals the cost, and 20 plus 16 equals 46. And since we're talking about a cost, and we know this is money, you're going to put your dollar sign in front. So it would cost $46 to have their lawn cut if it takes 2 hours to do the job. Okay? All right, I want you to try number 8. Pause the video, come back when you're back. Hopefully you wrote your formula, you substituted, remember the plug, and now you chug and work it out. Follow your order of operations. Hopefully you got $44. If not, then make sure that you pause the video, go back and see where you made your mistake. So as an overview, when we're using formulas and we're given the values for the variables, all you do is plug and chug. Plug means to substitute for your variables. Chug means to work it out. And guys, it doesn't matter what the formula is. It should not bother you at all if you don't know what the formula means. In some cases they tell us, in others they don't. Plug for the missing variables, work it out to get the answer, and that's all you have to do. Good luck.